All right, you all, it is time for me to start live annotating just the first couple of pages of each of these books. So, I have not looked or read anything before. I am literally doing this for the first time on this like live camera. So let's see what happens. So just as a reminder, for Mother Mary Comes to Me, I'm going to be tabbing for any key moments, quotes, emotional resonance themes, insights, and new ideas, or insights that turn into new ideas. And yeah, let's get started. And I'll be underlining along the way as well. So here we go. The first chapter, Gamester. Using my phone here is a little wait. Okay. So I'm just going to zoom in a little for you. It chose September, the most excellent month to make her move. I love that as a first line. I think that's just like, great first line. It creates intrigue right away. Like, what's the move? Who is her? The monsoon had receded, leaving Kerala gleaming like an emerald strip between the mountains and the sea. As the plane banked to land, the earth rose to greet us. I couldn't believe that topography could cause such palpable physical pain. I had never known that beloved landscape. I never imagined it, never evoked it without her being part of it. What I really like about this section is that this her and the earth seem to be so like very connected. So I'm actually going to kind of create like a theme here. Themes is this rose color for like earthly things because I think that that's like just a really important thing. So I'm actually forgetting here. I think it's this one. So I'm just going to be putting that right here. I'm actually going to be tabbing it inside here like that. You can kind of just see them on the outside. I'm just going to write Earth as the thing. I couldn't think of those hills and trees, the green rivers, the shrinking, cemented over rice fields, with giant billboards rising out of them advertising awful wedding saris and even worse jewelry, without thinking of her. She was woven through it all, taller in my mind than any billboard, more perilous than any river in spate, more relentless than the rain, more present than the sea itself. How could this have happened? How? She checked out with no advance notice, totally unpredictable. So I am actually going to put emotional resonance here. So we have that for pink, just because I feel like she must be talking about her mom, or, I mean, obviously that's what this is about. um, and I just feel like this is such a emotionally resonant moment for her, and it makes me like have me has me in this like gripped state. So I'm going to put that tab here just at the end of the paragraph. The church didn't want her. She didn't want the church. There was savage history there, nothing to do with God. So, given her standing in our town and given our town, we had to fashion a fitting funeral for her. The local papers reported her passing on the front pages. Most national papers mentioned it too. The internet lit up with an outpouring of love from generations of students who had studied in the school she founded, whose lives she had transformed, and from others who knew of the legendary legal battle she had waged and won for equal inheritance rights for Christian women in Kerala. The deluge of obituaries made it even more crucial that we do the right thing and send her off the way she deserved. But what was that right thing? Fortunately, on the day she died, the school was closed and the children had gone home. The campus was ours. It was a huge relief. Perhaps she had planned that too. Conversations about her death and its consequences for us, especially me, had begun when I was 3 years old. All right, so right here, I'm actually going to add the theme of death, because if she's talking about how her mother's dying and, you know, um, talking about how this happened when she was 3 years old is obviously important. And you know what? Since this is still the first time I'm doing this, I'm going to go back to see if I'm like missing anything. So key moments, quotes, themes, emotional resonance, insights, new ideas. Conversations about her death and its consequences, especially for me, had begun when I was 3 years old. She was 30 then, debilitated by asthma, dead broke. Her only asset was a bachelor's degree in education. And I'm actually going to underline that. I just thought that was kind of funny. Oh, and you know what? I don't need to, I could just do that with this. And she had just walked out on her husband. Ooh, juicy. My father, I should say, although somehow that comes out sounding strange. She was almost 39 when she 89 when she died. So we had 60 years to discuss her imminent death and her latest will and testament, which, given her preoccupation with inheritance and wills, she rewrote almost every other week. I just think that's important, especially with the theme of death. The number of false alarms, close shaves, and great escapes that she racked up would have given Houdini pause for thought. They lulled us into a sort of catastrophe complacency. I really love that term, catastrophe complacency. I truly believed she would outlive me. When she didn't, I was wrecked, heart smashed. I am puzzled and more than a little ashamed by the intensity of my response. Okay, I think that is a very big and emotional resonance, which I believe is pink. So just thinking, one, that your mom would outlive you, and then you were heart smashed when she didn't. Like heart smashed too. I just love that term. I am puzzled and more than a little ashamed by the intensity of my response. All right, so I think I'm going to stop there for this book. So I've had 2 tabs for themes and 2 for emotional resonance. So yeah, and actually, you know what? I'm going to add, because we could do things later. Just the key moment is her dying, right? So I'll just kind of put that here, just with the death, with her dying and everything being reported in the papers. All right. Now let's move on to the Brown book. Okay. So we got, again, the main idea, concepts, definitions, quotes, dive deeper, insights that turn into new ideas. And I'm guessing this might not come in the first couple pages, but it's possible. Anything's possible. So we're starting with the preface. Okay. Preface, Karma Sutra, the forethought. I just think that that's just great, the Karma Sutra instead of Kama Sutra. I first stumbled upon W.E. Du Bois' The Souls of Black Folk some 2 decades ago in a cluttered bookstore on Free School Street in Calcutta. Why I selected that book instead of the many tattered novels that I normally purchased, I cannot say. My only recollection is that after I read the book, even so far away, it moved me deeply. So I'm just going to underline that. I just really think that's important. I'm actually going to put that as a main idea. Just this, the souls of Black folk. This seems to be very important for Vijay Prashad's exploration here. Part of the magic was the style. I actually really like this for reading, keeping lines too, so I'll do that. Part of the magic was the style, the sheer exuberance of the prose, but the main reason was the way Du Bois so lovingly offered his sharp criticism of the effects of white supremacy. Reading the book over and over again, I cherished the throaty cadences of Ma Rainey mixed in with the stern dialectics of Hegel, the popular traditions that Du Bois sought after, and the elite theories that provided him with a framework. The book you hold in your hands is offered as my flawed attempt to draw from Du Bois as I write of my South Asian American brethren, whose presence in the United States complicates their narrative Du Bois offered a century ago. How does it feel to be a problem? Du Bois begins Souls. Okay, I think this is obviously a very big main idea here about what, this book is really. Why this book? How does it feel to be a problem? He begins Souls. White supremacy treats black folk as if they are themselves a problem. A history that lingers on as more and more is said about personal responsibility. And as the US government divests itself and economic system of any culpability in the genocide against blacks. As South Asians have entered the United States in the past 30 years, there has been a tendency to compare our destiny with that of black folk. If these brown folk can make it, say people like Thomas Sowell, Dinesh D'Souza, and the neoconservatives, then why can't black folk? Ooh, I am going to underline that because that is something that I really relate to. I heard that in my family and group of family friends quite a bit. Like, if we could do it, why can't they do it? And I used to believe that when I was younger, not thinking about historical context. And so this is something that I think is just like a really big, maybe I'll add that as a concept um, that I feel like is just really resonant for me. Trying to get it perfectly. Okay. I heard this all the time. But there is also another question that needs to be asked, and this book will take it as its central problem. How does it feel to be a solution? Ooh, I've actually heard this from Vijay Prashad, so that's not new to me. But I think it's a really, really important, another important concept, right? Um, that he's trying to get at here. Potentially a main idea, but we'll just do that here. How does it feel to be a solution? Addressed to all Asians, but increasingly with special reference to South Asian, this question asks us brown folk how we can live with ourselves as we are pledged, and sometimes in an act of bad faith, pledge ourselves as a weapon against black folk. I see. So this is an answer to the question, basically. This question, I like this question. Oopsie, even with the underline, I'm crossing out words. Try my best, y'all. What does it mean? This book asks for us to mollify the wrath of white supremacy by making a claim to a great destiny when we ourselves only a product of state engineering through immigration controls and the beneficence of more socialized system of education in South Asia. Oh, this I'm just gonna yes. This is the key. You know, that I think about all the time. I always think about how my dad immigrated here because he was allowed to, not because he was forced to. Yes, he probably had different choices when he was in India, some harder choices to make, but they wanted him to be educated. And he had a great education there. He was very, very into education. My dad was very invested in it. And that's a very different history than Black folks in the United States. Okay. When we are but the children of those who have accumulated a certain amount of cultural capital because of those processes, I'm just going to put accumulated cultural capital because of these processes, because I think this is kind of showing, and I'm actually going to write this. Actually, I'm going to make this one of the big ideas. Or not big idea, the insights. I think that's the mustard colored one. Like, how do systems impact culture? So systems to cultural capital. This book then is about the feelings, the consciousness of being South Asian or being Desi, those people who claim ancestry of South Asia in the United States. It's also a set of sutras. I'm actually going to write that. I've seen this, in the Yoga Sutras. And I'm also actually going to put that in concepts definitions because I think that that's an important one that he's talking about here. I got 2 tabs here. It was also a set of sutras, aphorisms of the karma, fate, of theses who must now imagine ourselves within the U.S. racial formation, seek to mediate between the dream of America and our own realities. Ooh, I just like that. The dream of America and our own realities. Such an interesting point of tension that I think about quite a bit. All right, I will stop there. So that is my live annotation. Would love to hear what you think. Feel free to drop it in the comments. Okay, I am actually back because I want to add a quote here. For just this, what does it mean this book asks us first to mollify the wrath of white supremacy? The part I said yes, I think that that's just like a really interesting quote. So I am adding that as a quote. So that's something that I will transfer to my book journal after I'm done with this chapter. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.